this is Patty with Stampin' More. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and I'm coming to you today to show an example of heat embossing. I had a request and thought I'd make a YouTube technique video. I am new. You will see my YouTube channel is very new. I would love it if you gave my video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, so as I progress and make more that you will be notified. So today I'm going to use the sentiment, "Thanks a bunch." This is actually a sample card, but I'm going to use this as an example, and this is what we are going to heat emboss. So the basic tools and items that you will need in order to do the embossing: you will need a Versamark stamp pad, you will need an embossing buddy, and obviously whatever it is that you are choosing to emboss, whether it be a sentiment, whether it be an actual stamp image, whatever that might be. And depending on what type of stamp it is, whether you use a pad or not, this one is actually a cling stamp, so we don't really need that. And I also use a paintbrush, and you will see what that is used for. So let's kind of clear our space, and obviously a heating tool, very important. And then the embossing powder. Today we are going to be using white. This is the white Stampin' Emboss powder from Stampin' Up! This can be purchased on my online store. And this is where we're going to do the heat embossing on. This is the final one, so I thought I would do a sample one here first on this one. You first want to take your embossing buddy and get all the static from it. This is something I forget to do at times. I also bring in a scratch piece of paper to put under here to catch the embossing powder, and so we're able to then collect that and save the remainder of that doesn't actually get used. So I'm going to move this over a bit so we can see it in the camera. So we first take the embossing buddy and take all the static off of that piece of cardstock or wherever you're going to stamp the image. And then your Versamark, you go ahead and open that up. Again, you don't want to squish down and get ink all over the rest of your actual stamp. And so you just lightly touch here. Do quite a bit because you want a lot. You just don't want to press hard because you don't want all the excess squishing out all over your stamp. And then you go ahead, do a firm stamp of that, lift it up. Again, I thought we'd just do a quick sample before we actually do it on the piece that we are wanting for our next card. And then you take the embossing powder, and you go ahead and you give a good bunch of it on there. Give it a minute. And then I've heard different things about either to flick the paper or not. So what I do is I do that. And if you'll see here, because we did the embossing buddy, there's really, I don't see anything. I use this if I see any powder in a spot that I would not want. Because when we use that heating tool and heat it up, then it will obviously heat anything wherever that might be. So it's gonna be loud a minute here. We're gonna turn on the heating tool and we're gonna warm that up. This is just so amazing. And again, I'm doing it on a scrap piece so you can kind of see here. And hopefully in the camera, we're gonna be able to see it as it changes at the end here. See it as it changes? Is that not just pretty amazing? I just love this. And once you feel it's all good and heated up, you go ahead and you turn that off. See there? That is just, and then it's all dry. So I love it. So we will do that again, just so you can see. And like I said, I use this scratch paper so that you can pour this back in. That's what I do. So I'm not wasting it. And again, we'll go ahead. Sometimes this is a step I forget. Embossing Buddy. This just gets it all clean and static free so that when you go ahead and stamp your image on there, you don't have a lot of excess that you have to get off of there. And then in addition, I'm going to show you the Pick-a-Punch and how to do the ends of this label. And actually, I'm going to turn this around so we can get it all nice and lined up. Again, forgive me if my head's in the way. I'm going to stamp down pretty firm. And then we're going to take that embossing powder. I'm going to cover this back up. I'm going to take that embossing powder. We're going to put that generously over that. And see, because we use the Embossing Buddy, I don't see any little extra flakes, but if there was, oh, whoa, you're gonna go ahead and just take this and remove it. Now, obviously, if this brushes against anything, that's gonna come off, then we're gonna mess up that sentiment and the embossing on there. So since this is smaller, I think I'm still good with my hand. Sometimes I'll use tweezers to hold it further away. Again, you're gonna hear the loud noise. I'm gonna let it heat up a moment. I'm gonna grab this and hopefully you can see on the camera how it changes. And if you're wondering like how long you keep it on there, just enough to where you see it changing. And again, this is going to get a little warm. I'm going to turn that around. There we go. Sometimes you can hit the back of that. And there you have it. See that? And so now with the Pick-a-Punch, depending on your width, this Pick-a-Punch is designed for a half, 3/4, and an inch. And the width of this is an inch. So the little trick to this that I like to do, so that fits in there, and depending which one of those designs you want, I like to flip it over. I like to flip it over so that I can see back here. I can see back here where I want that lined up and that it's straight. Should have cleaned up my embossing powder. So we're gonna take the other side of this. And we're gonna look here. I'm gonna make sure that's all. And look at that beautiful label that makes. And again, I use this as an example so that you could see here how then this would fit on here. If we wanted this a little bit shorter, we could just go ahead and we could take that punch and put it through there again, and just have a lovely card. This card was made from the Celebrate Sunflowers. The stamp and dies are a bundle that you can get at my Stampin' Up! Store. There's a link below, so feel free to visit that store and purchase the items that you need to do heat embossing. I appreciate you being here, and again, my website is stampandmore.com, so please come and visit.